The rooftop was silent except for the breeze. John stood near the edge, holding a small velvet ring box in his hand. The city beneath stretched endlessly, bathed in gold light as evening settled in. He had chosen this night carefully. He had rehearsed what he would say. The ring, nestled inside that box, had taken months to design. A quiet proposal. A quiet man. A quiet moment meant for a loud new beginning. But the phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't think much of it, until he saw the notification. It was a tweet. Posted just 10 minutes ago by Sophia. He tapped it open, the screen lighting up with her familiar name. "From now on, my true love will be the one sleeping next to me." There was a photo attached. John froze. His fingers curled tightly around the phone. His heart, a second ago steady, began hammering like thunder in his chest. Sophia was kissing another man, by the sea, wind in her hair, a sunset behind them. The man's face was turned slightly, but John didn't need a second look. He knew that profile. The way the shirt fit. The way the arm curled around her waist. Stephen. His assistant. His subordinate. The person he trusted with meetings, contracts, confidential letters from Coup Group. The same man John had personally trained. The same man who had once said, "I admire the way you work, sir." The man kissing Sophia. He scrolled down, numb, until he saw the comments. "What about the guy you used to date? Wasn't he some corporate genius or something?" Sophia had replied. Quickly. "Compared to young Master Coup, he's not even qualified to stand beside me." The box in John's hand felt heavier. He opened it slowly. The diamond inside, pigeon egg-sized, flawless, glinted once under the rooftop lights. Then he snapped it shut. He wasn't angry. Not yet. He wasn't sad. Not fully. He felt something quieter. Something clearer. He turned from the edge and walked back through the rooftop door. No dramatic pause. No looking back. He descended the stairs, one level at a time, passing floors that carried too many memories. He passed the marketing department where Sophia had once surprised him with lunch. He passed the storage room where she had kissed him the first time. He passed the elevators where she used to wait every evening just to walk out with him. He reached the lobby. Pulled out his phone again. Dialed one number. "Secretary Liu," he said calmly. "Terminate all Lin Corporation contracts. Immediate effect." "Understood, young master," came the reply. He hung up. Sophia would feel it tomorrow. So would her father. So would Stephen. But none of them would hear it from him. He walked out into the night, slipping the ring box into a trash bin as he passed. It made no sound. Just a soft thunk. He didn't stop walking. The ring had been real. But what he had built with her, what he thought they had, wasn't. Let them enjoy their illusion. He had a better one planned. John was 29 years old when he first walked into Lin Corporation under the name John Tan, wearing a charcoal gray shirt, slacks with frayed lining, and a time-worn leather bag with no brand tag. No one looked twice. And that's exactly what he wanted. Nobody questioned where he came from. Nobody asked why he, with 3 glowing recommendation letters, chose a struggling mid-tier company. To them, he was just another talented analyst trying to make his way up. What they didn't know, what nobody could have guessed, was that John wasn't just an employee. He was the heir to the Coup Group. The Coup Group was a name people whispered in boardrooms. Their reach spanned tech, energy, logistics, and real estate. No deal moved forward without their signature in the background. Most heirs in John's position flaunted their last names, walked into meetings surrounded by advisors, and posted private jet selfies with hollow captions. John? He took a job under someone else's father. Not because he needed money, but because he wanted to watch someone he loved rise again. Sophia's family had once held real power in the city's business circles. But a series of failed investments, scandals, and market crashes had crushed Lin Corporation under a mountain of debt. At the edge of collapse, her father had reached out to John's company, desperate for a lifeline. John remembered Sophia from college. She wasn't loud, but she always turned heads. Not because of beauty alone, though she had it, but because she was composed. While others chased popularity, Sophia built quiet alliances, picked her words, and smiled only when necessary. Back then, John admired her from afar. He never approached. His family name was too heavy. And her world, too bright. But when he saw Lin Corporation's name in a distressed portfolio 3 years later, he made a decision that would define everything. He asked his assistant, Stephen, to set up a low-level interview at Lin Corp. He didn't want to arrive as young Master Coup. He wanted to be just John. Lin Corporation, despite its legacy, was disorganized. Systems were broken, morale low. Sophia worked under her father as director of brand strategy, trying to keep the company afloat. When John joined, she barely noticed him. He made sure of that. But within months, things started to change. He streamlined finance operations, created a crisis pipeline to handle short-term cash flow issues, and ghostwrote proposals that helped Lin Corp win 3 bids they'd already given up on. Still, John stayed in the background. His name never showed up on pitch decks. The credit went to Sophia or her father. He didn't care. Each time the company survived another quarter, each time Sophia walked out of the boardroom with a relieved smile, that was enough. He watched her from a distance, the way he had back in college. Only now, she was closer. Tangible. The first time she approached him outside of work was when he stayed late past midnight, fixing a budget error that would have cost them a government contract. She brought him coffee. No makeup. Just tied hair, dark circles, and a soft, "thank you." That moment stayed with him. Weeks turned into months. A rhythm formed. She started sitting beside him during meetings. Laughing at his dry remarks. Asking what music he listened to. Slowly, John found himself not just admiring, but believing. Believing that maybe she saw him. Maybe she didn't care about status or money. Maybe he didn't need to be young Master Ku for her to love him. They started dating quietly. No dramatic announcement. Just long walks after office hours. Secret coffee breaks. Shared silences. When her father asked him to take over the Western Suburbs project, a failing development mired in lawsuits, John agreed instantly. He brought in legal contacts from Ku Group's network under anonymous shell firms. He paid delayed contractor wages from his own private account. The project turned around in 4 months. And that was when the shift began. The more John gave, the less Sophia seemed to hold on. She started missing their dinners. She'd forget simple things he told her just days ago. Her texts grew shorter. Her laugh felt rehearsed. And then, the compliments stopped altogether. John didn't confront her. He thought maybe she was just tired. Stressed. But the truth was simpler. Lin Corporation was rising again, and so were her ambitions. She started attending charity galas again. Old friends came knocking. Photos of her in designer gowns reappeared on media pages. The woman who once sat in a dusty office at 11 p.m. beside him was now taking calls during dinner with phrases like IPO and influencer crossover deals. John waited. He told himself she just needed time. That once everything stabilized, she'd return to what they had. But she never did. Stephen, who had started as John's assistant during his Ku Group years, had been reassigned to Lin Corporation after a reshuffle. He was capable. Quick. Handsome in a clean, polished way. He smiled the right way. Flattered the right people. And most importantly, he knew John's real identity. He also knew Sophia didn't. John didn't notice it at first. But Stephen did. The distance between John and Sophia. The way she perked up when Stephen entered the room. The way she started asking Stephen to escort her to networking events instead of John. What began as a convenience evolved into subtle betrayal. Stephen began calling himself Ku's shadow partner at parties. Hinting at influence he didn't possess. And Sophia, whether she truly believed it or simply wanted to, started playing along. The first photo of them together appeared on a blog post, a beachside gala where Stephen stood too close. Her eyes smiled at him in a way that John had never fully seen. John still held on. Until the rooftop. Until the tweet. Until the words. Compared to young Master Ku, he's not even qualified to stand beside me. John stared at that sentence longer than the photo. The words twisted more than the kiss. He had spent years helping Sophia rise from ruin. She used that platform to crown someone else. He once thought love was earned. That effort was enough. That loyalty meant something. He was wrong. But now, he wasn't just the silent employee anymore. He was the man they'd underestimated. And they were about to find out exactly who they dismissed. The conference room was unusually packed for a Thursday morning. John sat at the far end of the long glass table, a quiet presence amidst chaos. The Lin Corporation board members, team leads, and project directors shuffled papers with tension in the air. No one dared speak first. Everyone was waiting for her. Then, the door flung open. Sophia stormed in, a folder clutched in her hand like a weapon. Her heels struck the floor with practiced fury. She didn't greet anyone. She walked straight to John. Without hesitation, she slammed the folder against his chest. "Are you out of your mind?" she snapped. John didn't flinch. He looked at her, unblinking. Why did the coup group cancel our contract? She demanded, voice cutting through the air. Why was every deal suddenly withdrawn overnight? Do you think this is funny? The boardroom remained silent. Eyes bounced between them. Someone swallowed audibly. Nobody moved. John slowly reached into his inside pocket, pulled out his phone, tapped the screen twice, and turned it around. Displayed on it was her tweet. From now on, my true love will also be the one lying next to me. Attached, a photograph of Sophia kissing Stefan by the sea. Sophia's eyes narrowed. For a moment, just a flicker, she hesitated. Then her lips curled. So what? You stalking my social media now? John said nothing. He merely placed the phone gently on the table. Sophia turned to the others in the room. This is exactly the kind of insecure behavior I'm talking about, she said, louder now. No wonder nothing moves forward with him around. Always quiet. Always watching. Never enough. John's hands rested on the table, fingers interlocked. Come. She faced him again. You want the truth? Her voice dropped to a sneer. I only dated you because my family was drowning, and you were a convenient solution. I needed someone reliable. Someone boring. But things changed. Someone coughed nervously. Sophia didn't stop. You're competent, I'll give you that. But Stefan, he's the real future. The man you could never be. And you know what else? He didn't need to pretend. John felt every word like stone, but his expression never shifted. Not even when whispers started spreading across the room like poison. He stood up slowly, buttoned his jacket, and turned to Sophia. I already gave notice, he said quietly. You'll receive the full withdrawal letter within the hour. Sophia laughed. You're that confident? That coup group will just follow you out the door? John didn't reply. He gave her one last look and turned to leave. But someone near the door stopped him. Hey, John, a junior assistant muttered. You dropped something. John turned. On the floor near his chair was the velvet ring box. Sophia noticed it at the same time. Her gaze sharpened. She picked it up before anyone else could, held it between two fingers, and popped it open. Gasps. A massive diamond gleamed inside. She blinked at it, then burst out laughing. You were going to propose? She asked, voice laced with cruel amusement. With this? What is this, a plastic toy? She held it up so the boardroom could see. Look at this guy. A glass ring from some knockoff website. This is what he thought would impress me. John stepped forward, not to take it back, but simply to look at her face. To watch how easily she turned his most private moment into a public farce. Someone whispered, it's probably fake. Another murmured, seriously? He thought she'd wear that. Sophia's laughter died down. She stared at the ring for one more second, then flung it at his chest. Get out, she hissed. You've embarrassed yourself enough. The ring bounced off his jacket and hit the floor with a soft clink. He made no move to pick it up. Then suddenly, her expression changed. Her lips tightened. Her face drained of color. She staggered backward one step, clutching her mouth. A hand gripped her stomach. She doubled over with a sharp, choking sound. Sophia, someone gasped. She tried to speak, but another wave of nausea hit. She turned away, hand over her lips. John watched, frozen. Not in pity. Not in worry. In understanding. It was then he noticed Mrs. Lin enter from the back, walking quickly toward her daughter. She gently rubbed Sophia's back and whispered something close to her ear. Hasn't it already been over 3 months? She muttered. John heard it clearly. His gaze dropped to Sophia's hand resting on her lower belly. Everything else around him faded. The whispers. The stares. Even the ring on the floor. She was pregnant. He felt something crack, soundlessly, inside his ribs. His voice was calm. But it trembled at the end. Is it? Stefan's. Sophia straightened, breathing hard. Then she smiled. Yes, she said proudly. Only a man like Stefan deserves everything I have. John didn't respond. He simply walked past her, stepping over the ring on the floor. Sophia didn't stop him. He never turned around. The silence he left behind was heavier than anything he could have said. The smell of antiseptic lingered in the hospital room, sterile and heavy. Machines beeped slowly in the background, measuring a life that had nearly ended an hour too early. John lay there alone, one arm strapped to an four-stand, a thin bandage running from his temple down to his jaw. His ribs burned with every breath. His shirt had been cut open by the paramedics. His phone sat untouched beside a jug of water. He had no visitors. No flowers. No name on his chart, just a number and a false surname. No one knew he was there. No one but her. The door opened. Sophia stepped in wearing oversized sunglasses, a silk scarf, and gilt that was painted too neatly across her face. Her heels clicked once against the tile floor before she paused. "I heard about the accident," she said softly. John didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the wall, unmoved. She stepped closer, stopping at the edge of the bed. The driver said it wasn't intentional. A miscalculation. The car skidded. John turned his head slightly, just enough to look at her. A Maserati doesn't miscalculate at low speed. Her face tensed, just for a moment. Then she sat down in the visitor's chair. "Look, I didn't come to argue." He stared at her, silent. "I came because I wanted to talk. I know things between us ended badly. But I never meant for this to happen." Still nothing from him. She reached for the cup on the side table, poured water into it slowly, and held it out to him. "Here. You should drink something." John took the cup from her hand, drank half, then placed it back. His fingers never touched hers. Sophia hesitated, then folded her hands in her lap. "Stefan didn't mean for it to go this far," she said finally. "He was upset that you followed us. He thought you were trying to cause trouble. He just wanted to scare you." John looked down at the scar peeking from under the bandage near his ribs. Then at his bruised wrist. Then back to her. "He failed," John said quietly. "If he wanted me gone, he should have aimed better." Sophia flinched. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her voice was smaller when she spoke next. "John, I want to ask you something, but please don't take it the wrong way." He raised an eyebrow, mildly amused. "What other way is there?" She swallowed. "You always reminded me of someone I used to know," she said. "Back in college. His name was Stefan. I had a crush on him for years. But before I ever told him, he transferred." John's jaw tightened. "And then I met you," she continued. "The way you worked. The way you held your silence. Your posture. I know it sounds shallow, but I started seeing you as a version of him. Someone I could start over with." John blinked, once. Then said, without raising his voice, "So I was just a placeholder." Sophia opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. She nodded slowly, as if admitting it aloud made it worse. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "But things changed." John looked back at the ceiling. A moment passed. "Maybe two." "You don't owe me a confession," he said. "What's done is done." Sophia gripped the armrest of the chair. "I also wanted to ask if you could help us keep this quiet. The accident. The press. If people find out Stefan hit you, his reputation will be ruined." John let out a quiet laugh. It wasn't amused. It was hollow. Dry. She looked at him, eyes wide. "I'm serious. The Koo family is watching closely. He's trying to rebuild things. And if this goes public, why should I care?" John asked, cutting her off. She sat frozen. He looked at her again, slower this time. "You came here not to check if I was okay, but to protect him." Sophia didn't deny it. She stood up. "I still care about you, John." "Sure," he said flatly. "Enough to ask me to keep my mouth shut for the man who tried to kill me." She stepped toward the door, her voice trailing. "I'm getting married next month. Please don't make a scene." John didn't reply. He turned away again, facing the wall, letting the sound of her heels fade behind him. When the door closed, he exhaled sharply, pain pressing into his ribs. He sat up slowly, ignoring the ache. He picked up his phone and typed a single message. "Initiate audit on Stefan. Pull identity, travel logs, and contractor access." He hit send. The reply came instantly from Secretary Liu. "Understood. Should we involve legal yet?" John's thumb hovered over the screen. "Not yet. Let him keep the mask on. We'll peel it at the right time." He dropped the phone and leaned back. The ceiling above him was white. "Bare." He whispered to no one. "She called me a placeholder." His pulse slowed. But his mind didn't. The engagement banquet shimmered with excess. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto velvet linens, and a grand piano played softly in the background. Sophia stood beneath a floral arch in a champagne-colored gown, one hand resting on her stomach, the other clutched tightly by Stefan, who beamed beside her in a white designer tuxedo. The guests, business magnates, influencers, socialites, buzzed with anticipation. Most had never seen her in public with her fiancé until now. They whispered about how lucky she was, how well-connected Stefan must be to secure a partnership with the Koo group. It was a lie. But one she had leaned into fully. That's when the music stopped. A murmur swept through the hall. All heads turned toward the grand entrance. John stood there in a black suit, alone, uninvited. Sophia froze. Stefan's grip on her hand tightened. "Ignore him," he whispered. "Security will." But before he could finish, a second figure stepped forward from behind John. A sharp-featured man in silver-framed glasses. Calm. Professional. Familiar. Secretary Lou. He cleared his throat and spoke, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lou announced, "I come on behalf of the Coup Group. The real young Master Coup would like to offer his personal congratulations to the bride." Gasps rippled across the room. Stefan's face paled. Sophia's knees nearly gave out. Lou stepped forward and opened a slim folder. "As is customary," he continued, "the Coup Group has sent a gift. And clarification." He handed the folder to the closest journalist, who had been streaming the event live. Inside, financial statements, employment records, and the original identity documentation of one Stephen Reed. Position, mid-level assistant. Salary, paid by the Coup Group. Photo ID, matching the man standing beside Sophia. The reporter looked up, stunned. "He's not the heir?" "No," Lou replied calmly. "Just a former employee. One who impersonated his employer." John remained still. Silent. The crowd began to murmur louder. Phones were raised. Camera shutters clicked furiously. Someone zoomed in on the documents. Someone else live-tweeted the moment. Sophia stepped forward, visibly shaking. "No," she whispered. "No, this isn't. This can't be." She turned to Stephen. "Tell them it's a mistake." But Stephen said nothing. She grabbed his arm, frantic. "Stephen, say something." Stephen opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "I?" He looked at John, pleading without words. John took a step forward, eyes on Sophia. "You wore the lie well," he said. "Better than the dress." Sophia's hands trembled. Why would you do this here?" "I didn't do anything," John replied. "I just let you enjoy what you chose." Lou stepped forward again and pulled out another document, this time, a legal contract between the Coup Group and Lin Corporation. Voided. Signed by John. The headline stamped across the top in bold red letters. "Fraudulent representation, all ties terminated." More guests gasped. Stephen tried to speak. "It wasn't like that, I just didn't want to lose her." John cut him off. "That ring you mocked," he said, his voice quiet, almost kind, "was real." Sophia's mouth fell open. John's eyes hardened. "Just like my silence." No one in the room said a word. Stephen looked down at his shoes. Sophia fell to her knees. It started with a press release. "The Coup Group formally severs all ties with Lin Corporation, effective immediately." No additional comment. No legal threats. No interviews. Just an announcement sent to every business wire and financial news outlet before dawn. By noon, the Lin family stock plummeted 61%. By nightfall, 2 key construction projects were halted due to sudden audits, ones quietly ordered weeks ago by John himself. Vendors pulled out. Suppliers froze shipments. Partners demanded answers. But there were none. Because the moment the Coup name vanished from their side, the market turned its back too. The Lin Corporation, once propped up by invisible favors and gentle protections, now collapsed under the weight of its own forged strength. John didn't go near them. He didn't need to. The city watched it all unfold, the same city that once praised Sophia's rise with Stephen, now silently questioned whether she had ever stood on her own. Inside the Lin household, silence roared louder than any headline. Sophia sat curled on the staircase, her phone in her lap, screen dark. She hadn't eaten since the banquet. Stephen had disappeared. Her father hadn't come home. Her mother wandered the halls like a ghost. A soft knock interrupted the stillness. Sophia opened the front door. John stood there. Not to speak. Not to comfort. Just to return something. He held a folder in his hand, one she didn't recognize at first glance. Her name was printed neatly across the cover. She didn't move. Neither did he. She looked at him, unsure whether to speak or fall. John handed her the folder, then turned to leave. "Wait," she called out. He paused. "I didn't know," she whispered. "About everything. About who you were." John didn't turn back. "But you knew what I wasn't." Sophia's voice trembled. "I didn't mean to choose wrong." You didn't choose wrong," he said coldly. "You chose easy." Her knees buckled. "I thought he loved me." "He did. As long as you gave him my name." She clenched her fists. Please. I need a chance to fix this. Behind her, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Mrs. Lin emerged from the hallway, eyes sharp and red. She had aged 10 years in 2 weeks. You dare speak like that in front of him? She snapped. Sophia turned, confused. Everything we had, everything we built, was because he protected us, her mother hissed. And you paraded his assistant as your fiancé? Sophia's voice shook. He told me he was. Her mother slapped her. Hard. Across the cheek. You were supposed to carry this family forward, she said, voice cracking. Now you've dragged it into the grave. Sophia held her face, too shocked to cry. John remained silent. He watched it all, but his expression was unreadable. Detached. Then he turned away again. Sophia stepped into the street barefoot, chasing after him. I didn't come back for sympathy, she cried. I came back for help. John faced her finally. You're only here, he said, because I revealed myself. Sophia froze. The silence between them stretched until the only sound left was the wind. 3 days later, it happened. Her father was arrested. The foundation of a major luxury housing project had collapsed, figuratively and structurally. The investigation traced it back to falsified materials. Supervising engineer, Stephen Reed. He had vanished after the banquet, but his name was on every permit. His signature was on every material checklist. Sophia stared at the news article, numb. Her father's photo was splashed on the screen, handcuffed, head lowered. The police had found evidence of bribery, subcontract fraud, and massive safety violations. She didn't cry. She walked to the drawer where Stephen had once kept his briefcase. It was empty, except for one USB stick. She stared at it for a long time. Then walked out the door. John sat at his office desk, back straight, eyes fixed on a contract he wasn't reading. The door opened. Sophia walked in, dressed in black. She placed the USB on his desk without a word. He looked at her. What is this? His backup files, she whispered. Accounting. Supply records. Everything you'll need. He said nothing. I want you to save my father, she said. John shook his head. I can't. He signed off on the construction. Sophia's lip quivered. But he didn't know. John looked at her. That doesn't make him innocent. Silence. Sophia pulled a document from her purse. A confession. She had signed it already. I'll testify, she said. I'll name Stephen. I'll admit I helped him forge bids. John took the paper, read it, then placed it beside the USB. He didn't thank her. He didn't forgive her. He merely stood. One last thing, she whispered. He waited. Her hands trembled. I terminated it. John blinked slowly. Terminated what? Her voice cracked. The pregnancy. He closed his eyes. Exhaled once. When he opened them again, there was nothing behind them. No pain. No regret. No hate. Just air. Sophia waited for a reaction. There was none. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. On the large screen behind the judge, a digital file loaded slowly, each pixel forming the official seal of the National Forensic Department. John sat on the witness bench, hands clasped loosely in his lap, the collar of his dark shirt pressed and sharp. He didn't look at Sophia, who sat in the back row, or at the man trembling in the defendant's seat. Stephen. The bailiff read the findings aloud, voice firm. Defendant's biological lineage matches neither the Koo family patriarch nor any known maternal relatives listed on file. The accused, Stephen Reed, falsified lineage documents, impersonated legal heirs, and fraudulently used Koo family accounts to solicit business deals. Stephen's mouth hung open. His lawyer dropped the pen he was holding. The room fell into stunned silence. Then a new document appeared on screen, one John had requested be revealed last. A grainy photo. A woman with solemn eyes, holding a newborn child outside a rural clinic. Caption, Mistress exiled under coup order, 1992. Sophia stared at the image in disbelief. John finally spoke. My mother, he said. Gasps echoed. He continued without emotion. 33 years ago, the coup patriarch disowned her, accused her of defiling the family name. She died alone in a provincial clinic. Her last letter was addressed to me. I was 5. He turned toward the gallery now. And I never forgot. The judge called order, but no one moved. John stood. I never cared about the Lin Corporation, he said. I never cared about status or empire. I only cared about the lie. He stepped off the stand, walking past Stephen, who now sat limp, mouth twitching without sound. John didn't look at him. He didn't need to. He walked straight through the double doors and left the courthouse behind. The news hit like wildfire. Coup heir destroys dynasty from inside. Stephen Reed never belonged to coup bloodline. True heir exposes family cover-up, rebuilds under new name. Reporters chased John for comment, but he gave none. He simply showed up 2 weeks later at the National Stock Exchange and filed the paperwork to reclaim his mother's original shares, those once stripped from her name. He rebranded everything. No more coup. No more family. Just J Holdings. A name no one could steal, no bloodline could deny. And the boardroom obeyed. Investors returned overnight, relieved that scandal was cut clean. The new firm grew in silence, wrapped in legal steel. No emotions. No legacies. Just results. Sophia found him 6 months later. She waited outside the building in the rain, her coat soaked, hair clinging to her face. John exited the elevator, umbrella in one hand, phone in the other. She stepped in front of him. He paused, unfazed. "I had nowhere else to go," she whispered. He said nothing. She searched his face. "I'm not asking for anything. I wanted you to know I lost everything." "I know," John replied. She swallowed. "Not just money. Not status. I lost Stephen. I lost my father. My name. And now you want to offer yourself," he said, "because there's nothing left." Tears filled her eyes. "It's not like that anymore." He nodded, slowly. "You're right. It's not." She tried to take his hand. He didn't let her. Sophia choked. "Even if I'm not worth anything now." John looked at her, eyes like glass. "Whether you keep that child or not," he said, "it has nothing to do with me." She froze. He stepped past her. And disappeared down the street, the rain never touching him. John never looked back. The rooftop hadn't changed. Same rusted railing. Same humming neon sign across the adjacent tower. Same skyline, smeared in orange and pink as the sun began its quiet descent behind the buildings. John stood near the edge, hands in his coat pockets. No velvet box this time. No illusions. Just a soft breeze tugging at his collar and a faded bookmark resting between his fingers. A maple leaf. Pressed flat, edges curled slightly. Years old. It had once been tucked inside a book he'd lent her, The Count of Monte Cristo. She slipped it in while returning it, smiled, and said, "I didn't want to leave it empty." He kept it. For far too long. He brought it here today, not because he missed her. Not because of nostalgia. But because this was the final corner of his story that still echoed with her name. He unfolded it one last time. The leaf crinkled faintly between his fingers. Not much of it remained. It had traveled with him through business flights, silent car rides, collapsed deals, and betrayal. He had run his thumb over its stem during sleepless nights. Used it to mark pages in unread books. Carried it in his wallet even after throwing the ring away. Today, it meant nothing. And yet, he smiled. Not bitter. Not triumphant. Just quiet. A kind of peace he hadn't known in years. He pinched the leaf once, crumbling it gently. It broke like paper dust in his hand, scattering into the wind as he released it. The particles danced briefly in the city's updraft, catching the last of the sunlight before dissolving into the skyline. John watched them go. "For love," he murmured, "I gave up everything." The air grew still. His voice didn't rise. He turned away, hands empty now, eyes forward. Then added, barely above a whisper. "For betrayal? I lost nothing." The lights of the city began to flicker to life behind him. But he didn't turn back. He walked away from the ledge, from the memory, from the last trace of her. And this time, he didn't carry anything with him. Not a ring. Not a name. Not even the weight. Just silence. And freedom.